I'm here at Barryscourt Castle with Jamie O'Callaghan to find out what life was like in the Middle Ages. Now, inside Barryscourt is a restored medieval Irish castle, so we're going to be looking at day-to-day life, what bedrooms were like, what toilets were like, and also the Great Hall. But first and foremost, Jamie, we might talk about the primary function of a castle. It's built for defence. It's not a very welcoming building. And even looking at the castle there today, all the ground floor windows are narrow, they're arrow loops. The main entrance is the only entrance there behind us, and it's not very welcoming.
Absolutely. So, like, the primary function is defence. Everything after that is optional, like comfort and everything. So it's primary for defence.
Maybe we walk up to the entrance and just look, because there's a couple of things like the murder hole, things like that really get that across.
Absolutely. Yep.
It's a very narrow door. Big wooden hefty door, but also outside that there was a metal grid that provided an extra layer of protection.
Yeah, exactly. It was called a yett. So a yett is like this iron grill kind of a gate that was mounted on the outside of the door. So that would open outwards. There was a chain attached to the top of this gate, and the chain went right through the door here into the inside. So when the door is closed, they can pull the chain and they'll pull the gate from the inside.
And while people can't see it at home, right above our heads here is a murder hole. What was the purpose of a murder hole?
So the murder hole is kind of self-explanatory. That's probably a bad way to put it. The murder hole is basically this hole in the ceiling. So when you enter in the entrance, the hole, it's for boiling water, basically, putting on people attacking the castle. It's to throw down any like stones. You're trying to slow down people attacking the castle when they're coming through. So that's what the murder hole is. It's very common for these tower houses to have a murder hole just in the entrance.
And then to our left up here is the main staircase. But again, the staircase, like everything in the castle, has a defensive or arguably attacking function. But this staircase could be absolutely lethal.
Absolutely. So it's a straight staircase right up to the Great Hall, which is kind of unusual for Irish tower houses. You usually have a kind of a spiral staircase, which in a way it's its own defence mechanism. The defence mechanism they have here, so on the bottom section of the stairs there, maybe the bottom 10 steps, they're called stumble steps, and they're purposely built at different heights. So, today, like our houses, all the stairs have to be the exact same height going up. These are purposely built at different heights.
So someone trips up if they're not paying attention.
If they're trying to run up the stairs, if you're not looking at your feet, you'll fall over, That's the idea.
Okay, so maybe let's go up to the first floor and get a sense of what these people were trying to get to.
Absolutely. Let's go.
So we're on the first floor of the castle, and I think up here we get the first sense of, maybe a building associated with the elite. But here at Barryscourt, one of the great things is that you have all these reconstructions that give us some sense of what life was like, also some of the differences. And we might look at some of the just the artifacts here on the table. Like, something that jumps out to me immediately is there's no plastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all wooden or pewter as well. Pewter is the kind of metal plates and stuff that you see there. So pewter is very common for this period because it's a lot cheaper than silver. So that's the kind of plates and stuff that you see.
Something else that strikes me just looking here is you also have leather jugs. Could you just explain to people what this is?
So this is called a blackjack or a bombard, and it's like a wine jug basically. So it's made out of this kind of hardened leather, which they boil basically to get that shape.
It feels like it's not in any way soft at all.
No, and it's like a boot. People say it looks like a boot, but it's stitched then. So yeah, it's like that hardened leather jug.
This would be for like wine or water.
Wine, beer, either. Same with the other bag, which I can show you after as well. So it's for wine or beer, but it can hold any sort of liquid. Then you have this guy here. So this fellow is called a mether. So a mether is a communal drinking vessel that was common in medieval Ireland. So it's got 4 handles because they basically pass it around the hall, and it's easier to grab it off people. So they're usually made of like willow or alder, sometimes yew as well. But the word mether comes from the Irish word madder, and a madder is like a container for mead. And so mead was this kind of drink made with honey, like wine kind of, but it's made with honey. And so they used to drink it out of these methers, and they'd kind of pass it around, take a sip, and then pass it on. So that's the kind of method.
And just looking down on the floor beside the table here, you can see that all the benches all the stools
Yep.
are three-sided stools, and the advantage of a three-sided stool is that it never rocks.
Yep.
Probably speaks a bit to the nature of surfaces
Yep.
in the Middle Ages, that you didn't have a perfectly flat floor that we might be used to today. So if you have a three-sided stool, you won't have it rocking.
Absolutely, and like they're based off of it's called the tomb chair, and the tomb chair is like this three-sided chair. You see this in the kind of Irish vernacular, this triangular shape, and as you said, it's for these uneven surfaces. So like no matter what, you can just pull up a chair and sit down. It won't be rocking, as you said. So it's a very practical design, basically, really practical.
Now, next we're going to go up to the Great Hall. But before we go to the opulence of the Great Hall,
Yes.
we're going to look at garderobes, the medieval toilet.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we are in what is a very cramped room here,
Yeah.
and people looking at this, you can probably see that we are in a dual toilet. But this was a garderobe. Garderobe is a medieval toilet, largely the same function, but it's a little bit different in terms of, firstly, privacy.
Yes.
People go to the toilet together, but also this had several functions, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the word garderobe, it's like a Norman French word. It means like somewhere to store your clothes, somewhere to put it's similar to wardrobe.
Yeah.
And the reason they're storing their clothes in the toilet per se is that if they have, say, fleas or ticks or any sort of insect, if they hang their clothes, say, above here, when all the human waste goes down the chute, ammonia will come off that and basically rise up the chute. So if they hang clothes with those insects or whatever, the fleas, the ammonia will actually kill off those little insects. So it's like fumigating their clothes inside here. So probably didn't smell great, but it had a really kind of good function, you know?
Yeah, it kind of makes me feel I might try the ticks before.
Yeah.
The privacy part is really what surprised me, though.
Yeah.
And it just highlights how people have a completely different sense of privacy.
Absolutely. Like here, it's small enough. The one upstairs is even bigger. It's like twice the size. Like they would have had no problem using a few people using a toilet. Like this one has 2 holes cut in it. You could have more than that easily. And like upstairs, when you see the one upstairs, it has these 2 channels in the floor, and it's basically a urinal. The floor is actually slanted. And it has these 2 channels in it, which is a urinal. So when they have the banquets, it's too dangerous for people to walk down those stairs to go to the toilet down here. So they have to have a huge toilet up there.
And with that perfect introduction, let's go up and look at the Great Hall here. We have come up a pretty steep staircase and we are in the Great Hall of the castle. It's 3 floors up, but this would have been one of the most important rooms in the castle.
Absolutely. The hall is definitely the most important. So this is where the Barrys would have kind of welcomed lords from other parts of Ireland. So you're trying to impress these other people. So like people have called the Barrys, the Barrys of the Bright Halls. They have. This is where they'd entertain like the most important piece, and this is where they'd have their kind of feasts as well up here.
It's quite distinctive when you walk in. There's this kind of screen that separates off the entrance to the room with the main hall behind us.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of the screen?
So the screen has this kind of double purpose. So one of the purposes, so when you walk in, it adds this, it kind of sections this bit off. It adds a bit of privacy. It's almost like a waiting room before you can go in and see the Lord. So the second kind of purpose then is to keep in the heat. So these screens, it's a huge room, and it kind of, so you'd see there's a lot of smaller windows, say coming up the stairs and down those little staircases there. So those windows would have been open. So that's trying constantly drafty. So you're trying to keep in the heat as much as possible with these little screens here.
And maybe if we step behind into the screens and see what is in the hall itself.
Yeah.
Like we can see a massive stone fireplace.
Yeah.
And again, maybe a room that's a little more luxurious than we might imagine a medieval castle to be.
Absolutely. So it has. This is like where the Barrys can. So it's called Barryscourt. This is where they were holding court. they were basically independent rulers. So this was the government of this local area, basically this room. So you have this large limestone fireplace with a kind of inscription on it. You see the line there in the grey line?
Yeah,
So
grey line, yeah.
that grey line is meant to symbolise where there was a balcony overlooking the hall as well. So there was a wooden balcony going along the side there. And if you see that door up in the middle, that door would have been the access point. That's the door right outside the Lord's bedchamber. So yeah, that's that little kind of balcony area up there. We don't know if there was an internal stairs up to that balcony, but maybe there was. But the access is right across the Lord's bedchamber.
Mentioned the Lord's bedchamber. Maybe we'll head up there now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, we're in a bedroom here in the castle, but this is one of the most ornate rooms. It's obviously a really luxurious room compared to some aspects of the castle, which can maybe come across as a bit Spartan.
Yeah.
It's even an ensuite
Yes.
bedroom. You can't see it out of picture,
Yeah.
but behind us there's a garderobe here. But can you just explain what this room was?
Yeah, so this room would be the Lord's bedchamber. So it's kind of the largest bedroom in the castle. So it's the only room with windows on all four sides of it as well. So it's like the brightest kind of room. As you mentioned, it has this little private kind of toilet just for the Lord and Lady. They have their own toilet. Then you have this large kind of fireplace. So it has another kind of inscription on it. So it tells us the year. It's 1596. You have this kind of bed then. So the bed may look kind of a lot small to some people, compared to like modern standards. For the beds, a lot of the time they were sleeping upright. They're breathing in a lot of smoke in this period. Like they have what they use for lighting the room. They obviously have candles, like beeswax candles. But what was very common in Ireland are rush lamps or rush lights. So you have basically a few rushes, like a St. Bridget's cross. Like they'd kind of braid them together and then they'd soak that in animal fat. So what you have is this long kind of a candle. It burns for like half an hour. There's a lot of smoke that comes off it and it smells really bad, but it's a lot cheaper. So they're burning these all the time. So there's so much smoke.
Really unhealthy.
Very unhealthy, yeah. So like a lot of them would have had chest, breathing problems. Like the average person, they're living in like a one room hut where and with a fire in the center. So they're breathing in smoke all the time. So, if they sleep upright, it's easier for them to breathe.
Like if you have a cough now, sometimes it's easier. Yeah.
Exactly. Some people say it's more superstitious. I think it's more practical, Yeah. We don't give them enough credit, the people in this time, I don't think, but it's a very practical thing, is them sleeping upright. So that's the kind of bed. It has these kind of curtains as well. So the curtains, that's to keep in the heat as well. So you draw the curtains so some people ask, is it a double bed? That is definitely a double bed for their standards. So that it has that kind of canopy around. What it is we have four kind of ships that were carved into the plaster not long after the building was kind of built. So these are from the late kind of 1400s. So if you see here, there's kind of a bottom of a ship here.
Oh yes.
Then you have the mast. Then there's another one behind. So that's one, and then that's the second one. You can even see the rigging here.
Yeah.
So we have 1, 2, and then 3. So we have another guy here. And then what's left of a fourth one is just these two walls, or just these two lines. So they would have been carved in. These ships have this kind of religious symbolism. At this period, not many people can read and write in Latin. So in churches, you see art on the walls kind of showing as a visual guide for people, like showing them like scenes from the Bible and stuff. Ogham is basically the kind of script that they were using in Ireland before Latin is introduced. So it was originally carved into stone. So when you see Ogham stones, it's usually on a large standing stone.
But this is like 1,000 years before this castle was built.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
This is 16th century.
So when this is carved in,
Yeah, it's almost.
I think for them it's an ancient script.
Absolutely, it's completely archaic. And by this time, when they do this, it's being more used like a secret language by very few people know, maybe like priests, monks, that kind of thing. So there's an example of a manuscript in Europe where like an Irish monk is writing, and in the margin of the page he writes in Ogham, basically the translation is hung over. And like the reason, like it's like only very few people would know that. So this is like when you see Owen, it always has this kind of central line, and that's from when it was designed on stone. So along the edge of a stone, there's carved in these notches. So like if you see these 5 lines going, that's one letter. These 4 going across, that's another letter. You know, when it comes to Irish tower houses and stuff, a lot of, say, travellers would have remarked, like English travellers and French travellers, they remarked how little furniture there was in the castles. Like the Irish they didn't value that materialistic culture, say that probably the Anglo-Norman families would have had. So there's one guy, Luke Gernon, who I think it's 1620 he comes, but he says don't expect canopy and curtains when you're staying in an Irish castle. Like, you know, you'd be lucky to have just a place to sleep, let alone something to lie on. But yeah, that's the kind of sleeping arrangement. It's nowadays, as we were talking earlier with the privacy thing, it's crude looking back, but yeah, that was normal for them. You know, that was normal for them.
That's absolutely fascinating. I think we've gotten an amazing insight into what life in a castle was like. I think there's so much there that would surprise everyone. But yeah, thanks a million.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.